Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Johnny Cueto struggled early last night, but got it together over the final 4 innings of work and left with a lead. Thanks to Marlon Byrd, who continues his hot hitting. A 2-run single to give him a lead, and then a tie game in the 8th, a home run, where Brian Price handed the ball to Aroldis Chapman, who slammed the door in a 1-run win. A tall task tonight for the Reds, facing one of the best in all of baseball in Madison Bumgarner. And the Reds will counter with a veteran right-hander, Jason Marquis. And we welcome you, a big crowd on a beautiful day, beautiful night in Cincinnati. Game 2 of 4 between the defending world champion San Francisco Giants and the Cincinnati Reds. Hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Delighted to have you with us on this Friday night. And this is one mighty tough customer the Reds are facing here tonight. An unbelievable postseason last year. MVP of the LCS and the World Series was Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, we talk very highly of Johnny Cueto, saying he may be the best pitcher that we know of that hasn't won a Cy Young Award. But Bumgarner really splashed himself onto the national scene last year with what he has done in the postseason. Last year, he was the World Series MVP, the NLCS MVP. He can pitch. He did complete games. He came in relief, and he single-handedly strapped the Giants on his back and carried them right through the end of the World Series and got them a World Series ring. Right now, well, not the kind of run support you'd always expect that he would get, but kind of like Johnny Cueto, he keeps his team in the ball game and always a very, very, very tough customer on the mound.
Meanwhile, for the Reds, it's Jason Marquis, who he himself has won 3 games so far.
You know, the thing about Jason Marquis that has been very impressive to me is that his stuff is still very sharp. He's got a lot of movement on his fastball. He's got good control of his off-speed stuff, and he just peppers that outside corner, pitch after pitch after pitch. And if he's down around the knees throwing the ball where he wants to, he can keep this ball club in the game for a long time.
Well, for Marlon Byrd, some April showers have brought May flowers. Jim Day will have more on that when we return. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
I woke up this morning wanting to be an umpire, so I'm an umpire. A little bit muggy out there this evening. Slight chance of a thunderstorm early on, 80 degrees, dropping to 74 degrees by the time you go home. Enjoy the game, everybody, on Fox Sports Ohio. Play ball!
Tim, thank you. A mix of clouds and sun right now over GABP. And there's some humidity in the air. Don't look now, but the ball could be jumping out of here tonight. And for Marlon Byrd, man, has the ball been jumping off of his bat in the month of May. What a difference a month makes. It's our T-Mobile game changer. Look at his numbers in April. It was a struggle for him. But in May, 342, 6 home runs, 14 runs driven in, 13 walks, and leading Major League Baseball in May in walks, on base percentage, slugging percentage, and OPS. But they have a tough customer to deal with tonight. One of the best in the game. Madison Bumgarner goes to the hill against that guy, Jason Marquis. It's game 2 of a 4-game set. Reds looking for their 4th victory overall in a row. Tom and Chris are next.
Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy, check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good. It's Skyline time. Mr. Red Smokehouse, one of many outstanding stops around picturesque Great American Ballpark in downtown Cincinnati. 3-time World Series champion manager Bruce Bochy and the Giants. Their starting lineup tonight reads as follows. Same as last night. Blanco, Panic, Pagan, Posey, Belt, Maxwell, Brandon Crawford, Casey McGee, Madison Bumgarner. Making his 7th start as a Cincinnati Red, veteran right-hander with a 3-2 record, Jason Marquis.
Jason Marquis had 6 starts overall, and look at the walks and strikeouts. This is the thing that keeps him in ball games. He's only had 10 walks in those 6 starts that he's had. So, and when he misses, he doesn't miss by much. Sometimes you get the feeling that Marquis, his fastball moves so much that it's difficult to control. But when he's picking away at the corners, and he's been doing that pretty well, he can keep you in the ball game. He's shown himself really to be a 5 or 6 inning pitcher, and he's pitched on the right day. The Reds have gotten him a lot of runs, but hey, Sometimes that's luck, and sometimes that's knowing when to take the ball out there on the mound, and he hopes he gets a few runs tonight against Bumgarner.
Let's take a look at the Reds defense behind Marquee tonight, presented by Ford. And two notable changes from last night. No Jay Bruce against the left-hander Bumgarner. Christopher Negron starts in right field. And look who's back at second base. Good to have Brandon Phillips back in the lineup. Been bothered with turf toe. And Brian Price wanted to give Brandon one extra day. That was last night. And we'll see how it goes for Brandon on this Friday night. We're set to play baseball. Reds at 18-17. Giants 17-18. Blanco settles in. Marquee delivers ball one. We're underway. Dan Bellino behind the ball plate, calling the balls and strikes. Bruce Dreckman at first. Tom Hallion, the crew chief, at second base. Alfonso Marquez, the umpire, at third. 1-1 on Blanco. A .242 batter. Had a good game here last night. He was on base all 4 plate appearances. Single, double, scored twice, walked, and actually gave way after they made a double switch in the 8th inning. 2-1. We were talking about one of their real stars, Hunter Pence, out on a rehab assignment. And the Giants, they're not going to wait around for him anymore. He's on a plane coming to Cincinnati right now. And he will be in the lineup for the first time since being injured, breaking his forearm in spring training. It'll be his first regular season game here tomorrow night. And Marquee has just walked the leadoff man, Gregor Blanco.
Well, with Hunter Pence, what you get is as much an emotional lift to your ball club as you do a good bat in the lineup. I mean, they really rally around that guy, and they miss him. And you can ask anybody on that ball club what they miss the most, and they'll say that the emotion and the excitement that he brings.
Well, especially after what they saw him do at the plate last night. He's with AAA Sacramento. He had 3 hits and 5 at bats, knocked in 2 runs, scored 2, hit a home run in Las Vegas. There's strike 1 to Joe Panik. So he got a total of 17 minor league at bats. And he'll be in that lineup, mark it down tomorrow night.
I never really know how to read those assignments down there, because sometimes a guy might go down and go 0 for 12 and they call him back up and say that's enough of that.
That one into center field, a base hit. And the Giants, among the worst offensive teams in all of Major League Baseball. A walk and a single to start the game against Jason Marquee.
Well, hit very solidly. Marquee's looking for a ground ball right there, and Panik goes down and gets a ball that's a little bit left higher than Marquee wanted. And hit it very sharply. Brandon back in the lineup after missing a couple of days of turf toe, and that ball was just stung too hard.
For Panik, that is a career high 11-game hitting streak. 2 on, none out for Angel Pagan. He is normally their leadoff hitter. But with all the injuries the Giants have had, along with the exodus of Pablo Sandoval to Boston, at least temporarily, Pagan in the 3 hole, it would not be a surprise to see him leading off tomorrow night with Pence back in the 3 spot. Oh, and 2.
2 pretty good pitches right there, changing speeds on him too, Jason Marquee. You know, Marquee's fastball still runs it up there around 89 to 91 miles an hour. It took something off that one, and you can really see the side-to-side movement. You look at Pagan, to me, he tells me that he's a guy really looking for something down in the zone. Look how high he holds his hands right there. He's just ready to drop the bat head.
Strike 3 called on the inside corner, and that's good morning, good afternoon, and good night to Pagan.
Or you get him looking away, and then if you can place it perfectly, look at the comeback action on that, and that is perfect. Just the edge of the ball hits the edge of the strike zone. Two on, 1 out for the cleanup hitter.
A one-time National League Most Valuable Player, catcher Buster Posey. .289 batting average with 5 home runs. That's tied for the team lead with Brandon Crawford. And he shares a team lead with 15 runs batted in. And as we mentioned last night, I mean, runs, you talk about being at a premium for the defending world champions. Only the Philadelphia Phillies, who are averaging less than 3 runs per game so far this year, have scored fewer runs per game than the San Francisco Giants. In fact, they scored their average in the game last night. They got 2 off Cueto, 1 off Cingrani, and that was it. In the air right field. They've grown, playing virtually everywhere so far this season. Tagging up and advancing on to third is Blanco. 2 out.
Well, you get the feeling with Jason Marquis, and he's not out of the jam yet, but you get the first 2 base runners on, and there just doesn't seem to be any panic. He comes right back after Angel Pagan. Instead of nibbling at the corners, he throws 3 perfect pitches and puts him down on 3. He takes the power of Buster Posey away by making him a chase the ball on the outer part of the plate. Go the other way if you can, Buster. If you can hit it out of here, we'll tip your hat to you. And now he's 1 out away from getting out of this first inning jam.
And it's Brandon Belt who settles in from the left side. Hammered down the right field line. If it's fair, it's gone. And it is a home run for Brandon Belt, his first home run this season. And the Giants lead 3-0. Belt was the last first baseman in the league to hit a home run this year.
Boy, with the swing that he put on the ball, you wonder why he doesn't have more home runs. I mean, as far as he hit that probably is a home run in San Francisco. Marquis trying to come inside, and he comes inside, but Belt just unloads on him.
Well, it's tough enough to face Madison Bumgarner in a 0-0 game. That much tougher before you ever come to bat, trailing by 3. But that is the task that sits in front of the Reds, and they'll try to go to work on Bumgarner, a pitcher they've actually had very good success against in the past. 2 balls and a strike on Justin Maxwell.
For Marquis, he's probably thinking, man, of all that hard work I did to get through Pagan and then through Buster Posey and then just get a pitch to Belt that he was able to handle.
Two and 2 on Justin Maxwell. And a strikeout to end the inning, but major league damage done. 2 hits, a walk, a 3-run bomb by Belt. Bumgarner spotted to a 3-0 lead. Brought to you by Elk & Elk is Madison Bumgarner. You see his career numbers. Last year, the NLCS MVP, the World Series MVP, as a starter and a reliever. Look at that earned run average last year. But the Reds' numbers against him, pretty good. In fact, they had 9 hits and 5 runs in his last start against him in June of last year. And his ERA against the Reds is his highest versus any National League team.
Now, Bumgarner is one of those rare combinations of an unusual pitching motion. Lots of movement, good control, and an attitude where he figures that he can take on anybody and everybody, and he normally does and wins. He is big and strong and just a country strong kid from Hickory, North Carolina.
Billy Hamilton looks at a strike. Hamilton, a 205 batter. They're tightened up a little bit on the corners, not a ton. Hamilton just had his first bunt hit of this season when the homestand began against the Atlanta Braves, and he's quickly behind Bumgarner, 0-2. Thought about it, laid off the high fastball. It's hard to believe, but Madison Bumgarner is only 25 years old.
Yeah, he's got 155 major league starts under his belt. He was pitching in the postseason at age 20 and dealing.
If he never pitched again in a World Series the rest of his career, his 0.25 earned run average would be the lowest of all time based on a criteria of number of innings and so forth. Panic. Boy, that's a nice play. To his right to throw out the speedy Hamilton, one away. Let's take a look at the Reds lineup presented by Meyer. Hamilton retired. Here comes Cozart, then Votto. Todd Frazier, the red-hot Marlon Byrd, and Brandon Phillips back in there tonight. A ladder third of Pena, Negron in right for Jay Bruce and Jason Marquis. Cozart has been very good his first 2 games back since re-injuring his wrist, or at least feeling some pain in that wrist that originally cost him 3 games in Pittsburgh. Came back last weekend, swung the bat very well in Chicago. Then when the Reds came here against Atlanta, it was bothering him again. High fly ball into left field. That'll back up Blanco, and that baby's gone.
What a difference a year makes for Zach Cozart. That's a hanging breaking ball right there, but he doesn't pull off of it one bit. He's waiting for it and ready to hit it. And that's really the difference between last year and this year for Cozart. He told me today that he is ready to hit every pitch he sees. He just feels like he's in a good spot mentally, and he's got his mechanics of hitting down to where he wants him to be.
Joey Votto, one of the rare left-handed batters that Madison Bumgarner faces at all anymore when he's on the mound. I mean, it's becoming almost Randy Johnson-esque, where opposing teams just infrequently ever run a left-handed batter out there in their lineup against Bumgarner. In fact, this year you have Ender and Ciarte, and this is a reason why.
Well, when you're looking at the fewest number of left-handers, the reason why is that the guys are just devastating on them. Sidewinding motion. Jeff Locke has faced twice as many as Bumgarner's had. This is batters faced, not different hitters themselves. So Joey Votto would make number 15 on the year. And of course, Votto's the kind of hitter that you don't sit against anyone, but he's got his hands full tonight against one of the toughest lefties around.
And even that number that we just put up is grossly misleading. I mean, it's incredibly misleading when you see 14, because 5 of them are from Ender and Ciarte, an outfielder for the Diamondbacks. 2 of them are by the Marlins Christian Yelich. The other 9 left-handed at-bats against Bumgarner have been by Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
So 9 of the 14 have been against an opposing pitcher.
And Kershaw's on that list too. He was number 3 on that list, having faced 34 lefty hitters. He just kind of got it, makes you feel a little uncomfortable in that left-handed batter's box. Very much like, as you said, Randy Johnson, and going back even further, John Candelaria. They had done a lot of work with Bumgarner and his motion. He was a former #1 draft pick. They got him out of high school. 2007, the Giants got him, and when he first came on the scene, I mean, he was stepping directly towards first base and throwing to home. You talk about a crossfire. It was as bad of throwing across your body as you've ever seen. And he still does it now. If you take a really good look as to where that right leg goes, I mean, he swings it around a little bit, and he's going to step over here, and he's going to pitch this way. And it's a difficult thing to do, but he just figured out how to do it.
That one into left center field off the bat of Frazier. He's digging hard for second. Here comes the throw. It's offline. And Todd with a 2-out double to keep it alive for Marlon Byrd.
The Reds' plan of attack is a little bit different for Madison Bumgarner, especially the right-handers. Todd Frazier, you'd have to really be able to study him to notice, but he's a little farther away from home plate against Bumgarner because of the angle of the pitch coming in. Some guys don't like to move very much, but you'll see some guys that will be a little bit farther away. Bird is in his normal spot. And the way he's hitting the ball, why not?
He's simply had an incredible month of May. After such a woeful start, his first month in a Reds uniform. In May, he leads all National Leaguers in slugging percentage and walks. Has the second most home runs, second most runs batted in, third base on base percentage, and the 5th most extra base hits. That's among all players in the league.
And laying off that pitch is one of the main reasons why he's been doing so well. Our steel power tool performer at bats per home run. And the Reds, you can see going back to Kevin Mitchell, Marlon Byrd is right there. Every 6 at bats here in 2015 in the month of May. Baya.
2-0 to Byrd. No one took a nosedive down and in. He came up empty. Marlon 4 hits in 18 career at bats, including a home run against Bumgarner. He has Frazier out there at second base. Reds are down 3-1. We're in the last of the first inning. Straight up in the air, and the second baseman panicked with a catch, and that's all. The Reds get a long one from Kozar. 3-1 at the end of one.
energy. Starters ERA in the National League since May 4th. This basically represents the last 2 times through the rotation, and the Reds are best in baseball at 2.91 ERA. Now off to a rough start tonight is Jason Marquis. Perhaps he can settle in, but the Red starters of late, very good.
It's really interesting, isn't it, Chris? Because probably the #1 question about this Reds team, and granted we're only 6 weeks into the season, but the #1 question about this team, after trading away an outstanding pair of pitchers. I mean, Latos, really you add up the entire body of work in his tenure here before last year when he was injured. The 2 years prior, he was the best pitcher on this team because Cueto had the injury the season before. You combine the 2 years, and he truly was the Reds' ace. Alfredo had the breakout year last year, went to the All-Star game, won 15 games, and everybody's wondering, okay, well, now with some youngsters and again, a veteran like Marquis, can they hold up? They've been really good.
Well, they have been good, and not only have been good, Tom, but they have some extras down in the minor leagues, as they have shown by bringing up Raisel Iglesias. I mean, there have been times that the Reds have looked down in the minor leagues for help, and there was really no one to be had down there. Now you've got arms that are up and coming, not just, 4A retreads. But they're going to have to come to a decision at one time or another about those young pitchers. I mean, they've got to protect their innings, that, and they know that. So how they handle that, it will be a very difficult decision.
It scoots by Brandon Phillips, and the leadoff man Crawford reaches safely.
Where you're so used to seeing Brandon make this play that when it goes by him right there, that's a once every 2 or 3 month happening.
Phillips charged with an error on the play. So now the #8 hitter, the slumping Casey McGee. He was brought in as a free agent during the offseason after a real nice year with the Miami Marlins. That one got a big chunk of Brian Payne. They have just changed that scoring decision, by the way. Not an error. Now it's a base hit.
Well, Brian got beat up a little bit last night with a broken bat off the swing of Buster Posey. Alfonso Marquez, the home plate umpire, also got the worst of that. He's down at third base tonight. He had x-rays after the game, Alfonso did, and it turned out to be negative. He's iced it. He's okay. But he's still wearing a little compression sleeve on his wrist.
McGee, a .287 batter last year with the Marlins. Swing and a miss, runner goes, and easily stealing second base is Brandon Crawford. That's only his second of the entire year. It's not a bad idea there. After the catcher takes one off the foot, the very next pitch take off.
It was probably a hit and run, or else you wouldn't see McGee take a swing like that. It was a hit and run last night when we speculated when Buster Posey was in a first and third situation. We thought it was a double steal attempt. It was not. It was a busted hit and run when Brandon Belt swung through a pitch and missed. Giants are doing everything they can to just try to generate some runs.
1 ball and 2 strikes on McGee.
And the other part of it is because Marquis keeps the ball down, gets a lot of ground balls. They want to stay out of a double play ball. So they figure even if McGee puts the ball in play with the runner going, you put him in a scoring position for one of the better hitting pitchers in all of baseball.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Started 2 and laid off.
That's where you really got to stay with McGee. I mean, just watch his setup. You watch where he steps, where his hips go, and he tells you that he wants that ball in or third.
Two pitch. Soft liner caught by Brandon Phillips. And that's out number 1 here in the San Francisco second inning. Well, you're not lying about Madison Bumgarner. Last year he led all pitchers with a .262 batting average, but that does not begin to tell the story. He hit 4 home runs, drove in 15 runs, and became only the second pitcher in Major League history to hit 2 grand slams in 1 season. So far this year, clearly pitchers are bearing down when Bumgarner steps out to the plate. He has 1 hit in 14 at bats.
That's why it's so hard to be a silver slugger hitting pitcher and go year after year after year, because you can sneak up on them 1 year and then all of a sudden they're throwing breaking balls at you, splitters at you, they're knocking you off the plate.
Well, we've seen that front and center with the Reds pitcher Mike Leake.
Well, this is interesting matchup tonight because you've got 2 Silver Slugger award winning pitchers teeing it up against each other. Jason Marquis did it in 2005 when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. And he hit .310, had a home run and 10 ribbies. And Bumgarner got it last year.
2-2, and it's hooked down the line, foul, and a good thing for Marquis and the Reds. Runner at second, 1 away, and the 2-2 coming. Marquis to Bumgarner, got him swinging on a good pitch down and away. One more out to go now for Jason. He faces a leadoff man, Blanco, for the second time in the game, and we're in the second inning. The Giants sent 6 to the plate, scored 3 times on the 3-run home run from Brandon Belt. Told you the Giants in a game under 500. They are in 3rd place inside the National League West. The Dodgers have been cooled off the last couple of nights, losing to Colorado. And Miami the night before that. San Diego 4 games behind. The Giants are 5.5 out. In the Central, the Reds in 1 game over 500 are a whopping 6.5 behind the Cardinals, of course, who have the best record in all of baseball. Cardinals 24-10, and they will open a good series tonight against the Detroit Tigers. Tigers at 21 up and 14 down. That'll be a 3-game weekend series in St. Louis. Blanco came into this series hitting all of .219. The Reds have not retired him yet in this series. 4 plate appearances and been on base all 4 times and has scored 3 runs with 2 hits and a pair of walks. And they finally take care of him to end the 2nd inning. Phillips, Pena, Negron coming up. Giants with a 3-1 lead.
Day, 48 hours removed from turf toe after seeing a foot specialist. Phillips back in there, and he admits he is not 100% but appreciates the opportunity to get back in there. Now he is playing tonight with an insert in that foot. You look at it right there, that is a hard, I'm not sure exactly what it's made out of, but it's very hard, and it takes the pressure off of that big toe, which is where he is hurting. And Phillips grounds out to second base. But as much as in the past as he's played through injuries and he's manned up, he also says, I will man up this time. If it's bothering me too much and I feel like I'm hurting the team, I will definitely take myself out of this game. And in that ground ball we saw in the first inning, doesn't quite look like he's got every step in it.
No, he does not.
Well, he is a guy, and Jim, you're exactly dead on when you said manned up, played through a lot of injuries. I mean, he played through a broken finger for about 6 weeks a couple of years ago. And he's a guy that just nicks and bruises don't set him down. Other players are going to sit out if they don't feel 100%. Brandon Phillips is out there knowing that his replacement is probably not as good as Brandon Phillips is at 85% or at 80%. But there is a point at which you say, hey, I just can't go anymore.
Giants with a 3-1 lead. Reds batting against Madison Bumgarner here in the last of the 2nd inning. Brian Pena, a whopping .354 batting average. He had 2 hits and 4 at bats last night, knocked in a run. 1-2. Negron waits on deck, getting a rare start. In fact, his first start of this season in right field. And that's a position that I'm sure is keeping Brian Price up at night, because they have to start getting production out of the right field position. And we all know about the struggles of Jay Bruce so far this season. Glove side for the sure-handed Crawford, 2 away. But look at the Giants on defense, presented by Ford. Now we mentioned everybody the same as last night. Pagan making a spectacular play in the opening inning here last night on a ball hit by Zach Kozak. He also caught a line drive later in the game by Schumacher. And when Pena drifted too far away from the first base bag, fired all the way to Brandon Belt to double up Pena to end an inning. Strike 1 to Negron. Negron has 46 at bats so far this season. He has 5 hits and a run batted in. And now he has a liner, but it's caught out there by Maxwell. Hard hit ball. Turns into a 1-2-3 inning for Bumgarner. End of 2. The Giants lead by 2. Power Stacks, Jennifer Cole from Bright, Indiana will win that beautiful new Tundra. And why not register for your chance to win? Just stop by your Cincinnati and or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. (3-1) San Francisco leads in game 2 of 4 here at Great American Ballpark over the weekend. 2, 3, and 4 in the batting order. Panic extended his hitting streak to a career best 11 games. With a single into center field, he scored on a 3-run home run by Belt. Panic followed by Pagan and then Posey. That's a whole mouthful there when you get Hunter Pence back tomorrow night. I mean, it's P cubed right now. We'll take that to the 4th power tomorrow when they're going 4 in a row. That'll be Pagan, Panic, Pence, Posey.
You need to come up with a little nickname for them. Remember they have the Killer Bees, Bagwell, and Biggio. And who's the third one there?
Well, they had Derek Bell there for a while.
Derek Bell for a while. But
yep. It's funny you bring that up because I read this morning where the Astros have the largest lead they have had at this point in time in a single season since all those killer bees were together. And I mean early on in their tenure together, 2003.
Yeah, Lance Berkman is the other one I'm thinking of.
Panic aboard to begin the inning.
Nothing soft about that line drive right there. Looks like Joey Votto had it in his glove and it just went right through the top of it.
Votto started to jump for that ball, and perhaps it had some top spin on it because you saw that as he went to leap, he realized that he didn't have to jump for the ball. That might have been plenty of top spin coming hot off the bat of Panic. Pagan struck out looking on 3 pitches his first time up. And now Marquis wanting to go through the signs one more time with his catcher Brian Pena. The Giants have had the leadoff man aboard in each of the first 3 innings tonight against the Reds right-handed. It's funny how baseball works. Pagan is a guy you could have had twice for nothing. I mean, giving up absolutely nothing to get him. Chris brought up last night, originally drafted by the New York Mets. There's a tapper. Cozart, he made a nice play on that ball. It hit the cut of the grass and flattened out on him. And Cozart able to still stay with it and get the force out at second base.
Well, he also stayed with it because Todd Frazier looked like he was going to take it. Normally you see that third baseman cut in front of the shortstop. That time I think he held off because he was afraid it was going to hit that edge and maybe he would muff it. You'll see Todd Frazier coming from the left side of your screen there. I'm just going to hold off on this.
Now Posey down the left field line, hit a ton. If it's fair, it's gone. It's fair and it's gone. And it is 5-1 San Francisco. Sixth home run of the year for Buster Posey. It is the 9th in 37 innings given up by Jason Marquis.
Well, it looks like maybe a split finger that he throws about 20% of the time and just got it up, and even that didn't catch the plate. But Posey was looking for something to yank, and he did it.
Boy, this sellout crowd or near sellout crowd, I mean, the air has been taken right out of the proverbial balloon. Long home runs by Brandon Belt with 2 aboard in the first inning. And now a 2-run blast by Posey here in the third. Long way to go. A 5-1 Giants lead. Shot into left field. Reds had the big shift put on against the left-handed batting Belt. The homer down the right field line his first time up and whacks that one into left center for a single.
Well, they're hitting line drives all over. Even outs that they've made have been sharply hit. And I don't see any activity yet in the Reds bullpen.
Justin Maxwell Struck out his first time up. And takes up an in ball one. One pitcher we have not seen in forever is getting loose now, and that is right-hander Burke Badenhop. He pitched an inning and 2/3 in Chicago last Saturday, but his appearances have been quite few and far between. 3-0 now on Maxwell. That's a 4-pitch walk. Well, Jeff Pico is going to come out and slow things down a little bit here. Marquis started the inning allowing a base hit, got an out on a ground ball, 2-run home run, single, now a 4-pitch walk. And has Brandon Crawford, who singled his first time up, coming up. Well, coming up later on, we'll have our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. You know, right now you're right on that cusp of really which way this thing's going to go tonight. You stay within 4 with all the number of at-bats you have left to go. You've got more than a fighting chance. You start falling behind 5, 6, 7 runs with Bumgarner on the mound, you're in big trouble. And even though things are not going well for Marquis, he has time to get these final 2 batters out in the inning and get the Reds back to the plate.
And if you're Marquis, you're thinking, all right, I'm just a ground ball away from doing that. Throw the ball down, put some action on it, let your defense roll a double play, and get on out of here.
This ball's mashed into deep center field. Hamilton with an over-the-shoulder catch. What a play by Billy Hamilton.
Well, the ball is definitely carrying tonight, and Billy Hamilton may have thought early on that it wasn't going to go as far as it did, but Brandon Crawford crunched it. And not only does he go all the way to the wall, but he has to come back a little bit to his left because that ball looked like it just curved a little bit on him, and tracking it like a wide receiver on a fly pattern. He comes right down with it. And an important out.
One more to go. It's Casey McGee, the third baseman. Gets it off the end of the bat over the screen and out of play for strike one. Big crowd on a beautiful night here at Great American Ballpark. Of course, tomorrow night we have the big Johnny Bench bobblehead giveaway, part of our Super Saturdays. Tickets are available tomorrow and for Sunday if you're thinking about coming down to the ballpark. 0-2 on McGee. Tomorrow night we'll have Mike Leake on the mound against a veteran Ryan Vogelsong. Vogelsong's had a woeful year until his last start. He was very good his last time out against the Marlins. And then Anthony DeSclafani against Chris Heston on Sunday afternoon. 1 ball, 2 strikes on McGee. When you consider there are 20 off days total in a Major League Baseball season, it is quite odd that the Reds will have 2 days off next week. They'll be off on Monday, playing Kansas City Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday an off day before starting a series in Cleveland next weekend. 2-2 the count. And many of you have probably heard or read that Brian Price, with that in mind, and knowing that he has to keep an eye on the innings that Chris alluded to earlier from the youngsters Iglesias and Lorenzen, is going with a 4-man pitching rotation. And the 4 being Marquis, Cueto, Leake, and DeSclafani. Base hit right field. They're going to wave around the runner. Throw to the plate is over the head of Pena. And it is a 6-1 ball game. Boy, they had the runner out by 25 feet with just a decent throw. But as we brought up earlier, for Negron, it's his first start all year long out in right field.
Well, these guys take very little infield anyway, and Negron, I don't think has ever taken infield playing right field position. That's a spot that day in and day out has belonged to Jay Bruce for several years. You're thinking, all right, the Giants are going to try to make something happen. Last night, Bruce Bochy was quite irritated that the Giants did not score 2 runs on the hit by Buster Posey early in the ballgame. They only scored 1. They had a chance to get something off Cueto, and it didn't happen. That's off the end of the bat.
Broken bat, fly ball to Bird, inning over. 3 more for the Giants, and they lead by 5. Star Wars night here tonight at Great American Ballpark. I mean, all the cast of characters were roaming around on the field before the game. Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. There you look at the scoreboard. They have all the Reds as one character or another. Were you much of a you know, you and I, you're a little older than I am, but I mean, we grew up in that generation when those first Star Wars movies came out. Were you? Did you enjoy those movies?
Absolutely, yeah.
Loved them. Loved them.
And we've been in some cities while we've traveled during the season where there have been Star Wars conventions, and evidently we're not the only ones that liked them. There are some people that, well, are real, just like Star Trek. A lot of Trekkies out there. The Star Wars has the same kind of following.
Well, the one convention during the years that I worked for the Diamondbacks, and seemingly every year, one of our 3 trips a year, we went into San Diego, is when they had the comic book convention. Now, I got to tell you, there are tens of thousands of people walking around the hotel lobbies dressed up as whatever comic book character it is. They bring in huge stars that are in different movies based off of the comic strips. I remember one year Angelina Jolie was there as Marquis has gone swinging. That convention, a little creepy.
That's every year. I think the same time in San Diego.
Yes.
We've been there a couple of times to the Comic Con.
Yes.
The one Star Wars convention that we had, the Reds were not staying in downtown Atlanta, but George Grant was coming in to do the games, and he was staying in downtown in the same hotel where the Star Wars convention was. And he said he was waiting and waiting and waiting for the elevator. And it was so crowded. I mean, elevator waits were typically 5 to 8 minutes just to get you back to your room. And it finally opened up, and all these Star Wars characters came out, and Darth Vader, all 8 feet of Darth Vader came out. Darth Vader went right up to George, says, "George, you're my favorite announcer." Now that was kind of creepy.
That's good stuff.
I'm from Cincinnati.
Wow, that's good stuff. And knowing George, he probably stood there and talked to him for an hour. Because George is the friendliest guy on the planet.
Better believe it.
Hamilton's out of there on strikes, and those are the first 2 strikeouts in this game from Madison Bumgarner. He may not be getting much run support, he being Bumgarner this year, but that is not typically the story for Madison Bumgarner in his career. In fact, last year he got the 2nd most run support among all starters in the National League. Only Colorado's Jorge De La Rosa received more than the 5.76 runs per game the Giants were able to put up when Bumgarner was in games.
Well, if you just look at the earned run average, the number of innings pitched, and then the wins and losses, you can almost guess which years and which pitchers with the comparable innings pitched and earned run averages, the guys with the most wins are getting runs.
Fly ball to left, and Bumgarner's retired 7 in a row. We move to the 4th, where the Giants lead 6-1. Game on Fox for you and 3 of your friends. Upload 2 photos to foxsports.com/fantastic-all-star. You have till June the 3rd to do that. Taking over on the mound now in relief of Jason Marquis, and we're just in the 4th inning where the Giants lead 6-1. Is right-hander Burke Badenhoff.
It's funny how roles change even in the early part of the season. Burke Badenhoff was thought when he was signed as a free agent by the Reds in the offseason that he would be a bridge to Aroldis Chapman, pitching late in the ball game in a tight ball game. He had excellent numbers last year that he posted as a member of the Boston Red Sox. Struggled a little bit. Now he's serving as a long man here today, although I would say the Reds don't really have a true quote-unquote long man in the bullpen, but it'll be now Badenhop taking over here in the 4th inning. Sinker ball pitcher, changes speeds. You mentioned earlier that it's been a while for Badenhop to be in a ball game because, you know, when you're a sinker ball pitcher and you don't get a lot of work, it's very difficult to get in the groove to keep the ball down. He was in 70 games last year. And that's the kind of activity that you need in order to kind of keep in that groove.
I don't know what happened to Blanco since he arrived here in Cincinnati, but he has not looked like a .219 hitter. Reds have only retired him one time. That was a strikeout in the 2nd inning. It's 4 straight innings now. The Giants had their leadoff man aboard. And here's Joe Panic, 2 for 2. Fly ball center field. Hamilton will get back to this one for the first out in the inning. Badenhop was signed to a 1-year contract this year with a mutual option for 2016. Broke in originally in the big leagues anyway with the Florida Marlins. Of course, he grew up in Perrysburg, Ohio. It's not far from Toledo, not far from the Michigan border. Pitched for the Marlins for 4 years and then 3 different teams over the last 3 seasons with very good numbers. 66 games, 3.03 ERA in 2012 for the Rays. With Milwaukee in 13, 63 games, ERA of under 3.5. And then, as Chris mentioned, a 2.2 earned run average for Boston in those 70 games a season ago.
What he really excelled at last year, and I think what attracted the Reds to him, was the fact that he kept the ball in the ballpark.
Bird will wave off Hamilton for the 2nd out of the inning.
Last year in 70 appearances and a little bit over 70 innings, he gave up only 1 home run. This year the long ball has been him a little bit. He's given up 2 home runs in fewer now than 10 innings.
Buster Posey clubbed a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning. He's 1 of 2 in the game. Runner goes. Pena's throw to 2nd, not going to be in time. And Blanco has his 2nd steal of the year in just 3 attempts.
You know, with offense down in baseball, Tom, I'm really thinking that this is the next frontier that is going to be just dissected as much as you can possibly dissect it and find out where a team can be weak and susceptible to the running game. The Reds have already done that. I mean, they get extensive reports from guys that are watching video. They get it to Mike Stefanski, who's the bullpen coach out there, and he's responsible for preparing the reports to show pitchers time, how the catcher throws, is a ball tail, what counts, do they throw breaking balls on, all the details that you want to be able to have if you're making some decisions about the running game. And I think that, you know, it's, you only get ahead of the pack for a little while. Everybody else sees your team running and taking advantage of different pitchers and different teams. Next thing you know, they're all doing the same thing.
In the air, right center, Nate Crone, the call and the catch. And a nice inning of work by Badenhop after he gave up a leadoff single. Let's see if the Reds can climb back into this thing. Heart of the order coming up.
On the Giants again here at Great American Ballpark. As part of Super Saturdays, the first 25,000 fans in attendance will receive a Johnny Bench Stars of the Queen City bobblehead, and I've got an eye on that one. It is a good one. It's presented by John Morrell. For tickets, 513-381-REDS. Select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. Heart of the order coming up. Reds need some runs.
All right, Jimbo, here we go. Madison Bumgarner allowed a solo home run to Zach Kozai in the opening inning. He allowed a 2-out double in that same inning to Todd Frazier. But that's the last Reds base runner. He's retired 7 in a row.
Well, you know, Tom, there's always subplots in a ball game, and this is an intriguing matchup. We only have one left-handed batter in the lineup against Bumgarner. I mean, he is as tough as anybody there is, and you can see by that arm angle. I mean, he comes from not quite down around Laredo, but he's got a low 3/4 angle. And when he lets that curveball go, it looks like it's coming behind your right ear if you're in the left-handed batter's box.
And Votto, would you know it, just smashes one into center field, a base hit.
Joey takes a lot of pride in hanging in there against the best pitchers in the league.
Yep.
I mean, he hung in there. If you recall the pitcher the Reds faced in Chicago, where Carlos Rodon took the mound, young prospect, but throwing 98 miles an hour with an invisible type slider. Votto struck out the first time and then got base hits the next couple of times. I mean, sharply hit base hits. He made a weak grounder to Bumgarner the first time up, and he hangs in there, went to school on it, and got a base hit this time.
Frazier, as we mentioned, doubled into left center field in the first inning. Tell you what, the New York Mets have come rolling into the heartland of America, and they are getting the snot beaten out of them. They were swept by the Cubs in a 4-game series at Wrigley. The Milwaukee Brewers have scored 6 runs in the first 2 innings. And actually, that's the Mets going back home, I beg your pardon. I'm saying they're stepping inside the Central Division. And, man, they are just getting bludgeoned. Now, a couple of those games against the Cubs, you know, they got great pitching performances. Matt Harvey in the bullpen gave it up. Cubs won again today in extra innings. And after hitting a little lull, Cubbies have ripped off 5 consecutive wins.
What was the final score in that game? 11-10?
11-10, and it was a pop-up with 2 outs in the 11th inning. The Pirates infielder fell down, and the ball dropped to win the game. I'm being told it was actually Polanco coming in from right field. Just saw the video, and I mean, they could conceivably still be playing right now. 2-2 to Frazier. It might be any day now where the New York Mets wake up and they find themselves in second place for the first time all year. Because while they're losing, the Washington Nationals are rolling. They're only a game and a half back. Hard hit ball by Frazier, but gloved by McGee for the first out here in the inning.
Second shot in a row that Frazier has hit his 2 at-bats up there.
Marlon Byrd popped up to Joe Panik his first time up. Byrd with 8 home runs and 22 runs batted in. Only Todd Frazier has more RBIs than Marlon Byrd. That one down the left field line into the corner. They're going to hold Votto at third on a double by Marlon Byrd. So now all of a sudden you're a couple of base hits away from being right back in this thing.
Well, we mentioned how Madison Bumgarner, despite all the heroics that he has had in his short major league career, has had a difficult time with the Reds. And this is a right-handed laden lineup. This is where all the damage is done out of most of the right-handers, with the exception of Joey Votto really this year. But the way the Bird is swinging it, Frazier's hit the ball hard.
Cozart.
Even a pitcher, a left-hander as fine as Madison Bumgarner is going to have a hard time if you get all these guys swinging the bats right at the same time.
All right, Brandon Phillips playing at less than 100%, and we saw him his first time up when he hit that one hopper back up through the middle on a ball played by Panic. Brandon no more than probably about 50 or 60% at full speed running up the first base line. Jim Day and Brandon have become so close through the years, and Brandon, you know, sharing that information that Jim reported on earlier, that in years past, whether it was being hit on the arm, you may remember in that series against the Pirates where he played every day. Chris talked about the broken finger, but saying this time if a toe doesn't feel a lot better soon, he's not going to try and play through it to the detriment of his team. McGee will throw out Phillips. 2 away in the inning.
Well, I think with the injury to Brandon this time, and a turf toe injury can be potentially a very serious and a chronic injury that just simply doesn't go away. So if you don't take care of it and you let it get worse and worse and you try to gut it out and play through it, you just may be doing yourself a major disservice by making that injury into something that could be corrected and healing into something that may take a long, long time to finally go away. He was not running all that well down the line that time.
Well, now the Reds need a 2-out hit from Brian Pena if they're going to get on the board here in the inning. Fastball away. One ball and one strike. Well, the Reds have the rookie right-hander who, for the time being, along with his buddy Raisel Iglesias, that's Michael Lorenzen. Both will work out of the Reds bullpen over the next week and a half, what with off days on Monday and Thursday. It is a very delicate balancing act, the challenge this year, with all of a sudden the arrival to the big league club of Lorenzen and Iglesias, because of the number of innings that they're going to be able to pitch this season. There's a pop-up into right that'll end the inning. 2 hits, 2 left. We played 4, all Giants thus far.
It's live, the pregame edition. Everything you need to know. Get ready for that day's game. It's brought to you by Ray St. Clair Roofing. We've updated you on the Brandon Phillips situation. Let's update you on Devin Mesoraco. He says the treatment that he's been receiving on that hip is finally giving him a little bit of optimism, whereas the Reds have not said when he would try to catch a bullpen. Devin has come out in the last couple of days and said he wants to try to catch a bullpen by next week in Kansas City, and that will be the true test, because he did admit that he does not think that he should pinch hit all season long. If he cannot catch or come out of that bullpen session healthy with the aspirations of catching at some point behind the plate this year, he says he would choose to opt for the surgery. If he cannot catch, he does not think he should pinch hit all season long. That is certainly new news, but again, he says he's optimistic. The hip finally feeling better.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that, because I don't think there's any debate whatsoever that the Reds really miss Mesoraco's presence, not only behind the plate, but in 114 games last year, he led all major league catchers with 25 home runs. He knocked in 80 runs right from the get-go this year, penciled in as a cleanup hitter. And when you consider the struggles, for example, when you're looking at your lineup, as Baynop was able to knock that one down, it's a hot smash off the bat of Brandon Belt. But you think about Marlon Byrd, who was batting right there in the middle of the lineup, and all the struggles he had in April. We talked about that. And now here in May, and Bruce having some struggles. Phillips was slow to get started this year. Those are the guys you were looking at as being the guys to knock in runs, because remember, Votto started the year batting in the 2-hole.
And I think the other part of it, Tom, is the way he has come on so strong handling the pitching staff and throwing runners out. Now, Brian Pena filled in very admirably last year at first base when Joey Votto was out, but we don't know really what's going to happen with him catching every day, especially when the weather starts heating up. And I'm not so sure he's going to bat .358 forever.
On the ground to Brandon, and he'll throw out Justin Maxwell.
Well, maybe not making it look easy, and that's the way you really ought to try to keep it until you try to scratch your way back into this ball game with a couple of runs here or there. Would have been nice to have one run in last inning. Could not get a base hit or a ground ball deep enough in the hole to score a runner from third base.
Crawford a single, a stolen base, and he hit that ball almost out of here to straightaway center field, where Billy Hamilton made that acrobatic catch, racing back to the wall and then having to lean back to haul it in. Fouled out of play by Brandon Crawford. I mean, this is an offensive explosion for the San Francisco Giants. They have doubled in the first 3 innings of this game what they otherwise average over 9 innings per game this year. They're barely averaging more than 3 runs per contest. But that gives you an idea about how good their pitching has been.
Well, if you believe in the Pythagorean theorem,
are you asking me a question, or are you getting ready to make a statement behind that?
I'm asking you, do you believe in the Pythagorean theorem?
No, I don't. You do, though.
I do.
Otherwise, the Giants are going to lose 29 games in a row by a run. 55 and over ministry rode the Fan Express to Great American Ballpark to root on the Reds. There are available dates for the Fan Express. They're going fast. If you're interested in your group coming down in style, call 513-765-7600. 6-1 Giants. Reds bat here against Madison Bumgarner. 8-9-1. Michael Lorenzen is in the on-deck circle, so he's probably going to hit, it looks like, rather than burning up Brian Price's bench early on in this game. Should you climb back in it, you don't want to be left with anybody else down there, and they'll probably just stay in the game to pitch after having warmed up a moment ago.
You know, Brian made some interesting comments. You remember that we were talking about Mesoraco. Well, it was Michael Lorenzen who came around to score from first base on a double hit by Mesoraco to give the Reds a walk-off victory. That was against the Atlanta Braves. And Brian had some interesting comments the day after. Of course, Brian was a pitcher in the minor leagues where he was injured, his career sidetracked. He said, you know, we treat pitchers, we pamper them too much. We worry about, you know, if they run the bases or field a pop-up that they're going to hurt themselves somehow. Or if we allow them to swing the bat, they're just baseball players.
Well, that's why you may remember reading that story earlier this year. Madison Bumgarner got very upset about comments that were made by Max Scherzer about how the National League should adapt the designated hitter.
Yeah.
He said, look, if you don't like it and you're worried about getting hurt, then I'm sure there were some other teams over in the American League that you could have just gone ahead and signed with them. Because Scherzer had, I guess, been jammed with a pitch and injured his thumb when swinging earlier this year. There's strike 3 called. Of course, Scherzer came back later and said, well, that's not exactly what I was saying. And that was the end of that story. Let's check in downstairs with Jim Day.
You know, to add what you guys are talking about, Brian Price was talking about Michael Lorenzen the other day and said he's such a good athlete. We saw him, his wheels moving on the base pass a few games back, and he's not that far removed from college where he played center field. He said he would have no hesitation in a pinch in an extra inning game to put an outfield glove on him and sit him out in the outfield in a big league game. So that goes right along with not pampering the pitcher.
Yeah, I used to think that Travis Wood was one of the fastest guys on the team when he was here. Mike Leake can run, but I'm not so sure they can quite run the way that Michael Lorenzen was picking him up and putting him down on that game-winning score that he came in on that Devin Mesoraco double. I mean, he was really cooking.
Well, Tapper out in front of the plate. He's cooking down the line here. What a play by Bumgarner. Wow. He released it about 3 feet above the ground. From his backside, it never got higher or lower than 3 feet on the throw to Belt.
Boy, how he came into a slide to set himself up. He slides before he even fields a ball and beginning to turn his body as he anticipates having to throw to first base. That's as fine a play as you will see a pitcher make.
Billy Hamilton 0 for 2 has bounced to second and struck out. This is just a great play. We saw a ball last night. The catcher came out in roughly that same spot. And the Giants couldn't make the play, but Bumgarner, and he's a big dude, man. Chris brought up earlier, 6'5", up over 230.
You know, they've been talking about him for years. It seemed like every time we would go into San Francisco, we'd hear the coaches or some scouts talk about this young guy, Madison Bumgarner. Came out of South Caldwell High School in Hudson, North Carolina. Born in Hickory.
Hamilton puts a charge into one, and that ball will fly out of here.
Both the home runs tonight have come on curveballs, and this is a slow one right here. This was measured at 67 miles an hour. And Billy Hamilton waits. Bumgarner hangs it up there, and Reds have now pulled within 4.
And there's still a long, long way to go in this game. We're just in the bottom of the 5th inning.
Yeah, you watch the speed radar gun numbers that Madison Bumgarner's been posting up there. They're all over the board. I mean, he's not a guy that just throws his fastball at 94, has a breaking ball at 88, and then a curveball in the 70s. I mean, he's gone anywhere from 67 miles an hour all the way up to 94 and dotted just about every number along the way. At 25 years old, I think he gets it.
2-1 pitch on Kozak. Now 2-2. Well, the Giants were very concerned going into spring training about keeping an eye on Bumgarner's work this year. You add up all the innings he pitched in the postseason, and remember, he had to win a 1-game playoff to beat the Pirates. That was a complete game for Madison Bumgarner in the 163rd game of the quote-unquote regular season. He wound up throwing 269 innings last season. Here's a fly ball to right, and that'll end the inning. Reds get a home run by Hamilton, and at the end of 5, the Giants lead by 4. Meyer. Like your local Ford dealer, Ford go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on the U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospitals in America. So now Michael Lorenzen, after batting a moment ago, will stay in the game to pitch. Bernd Badenhop did a nice job tonight. I mean, clearly through the first 6 weeks of his Reds career, there have not been a lot of positive moments for Bernd Badenhop, but tonight he goes 2 innings, allows 1 hit, no runs. So well done for him. Strike 1 from Lorenzen to McGee. It's the first game we've seen Lorenzen pitch out of the bullpen. We've talked about it many, many times. He was a closer in college, along with being an outstanding position player. But when the Reds drafted him and made him into a pitcher, it was as a starting pitcher.
Now Casey McGee steps out of the batter's box disgusted because the fire operator out there in the tall stacks in the middle of the pitch let loose some fireballs.
That reminds me of the babysitter at our house last night. I get home from the ball game and stuff's been cooking since 5:30 in the afternoon.
Tender.
I was not happy. thinking to myself, wow, everybody's okay. She knows I'm ribbing her. I'm giving her a hard time about it. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And a fastball is high. Now, what do you think the adjustment is here, Chris, for Lorenzen? At least for the next week plus, to be working out of the bullpen.
I don't think there's much of an adjustment for him because his days as a reliever in college were so recent that he's probably sticking with it. I think his adjustment to a starting pitcher was probably more difficult than him going back as a relief. I think the biggest thing is just to stay mentally ready. This was ruled hitting the bat, even though Casey McGee wanted to go to first base on it. Now, if it hit him in the hands, he would get first base. The hands are not part of the bat.
So it's 2 balls and 2 strikes, and Lorenzen going back to work. Fastball away.
I think mentally ready. You have to come to the ballpark, and if you're a guy like Lorenzen, you're not really sure what role you're going to fill in. But they're going to ask you to say, hey, you know, you're ready tonight. We're not sure when you're going to be used, but you've got to stay ready. And it could be in the 3rd inning. It could be in the 13th inning.
Let's check in downstairs for more on Michael Lorenzen with Jim Day.
Well, you talk about him being a closer, and I talked to him about this transition into the bullpen, and he says it's not he's having to adjust to warming up in the bullpen because he was a center fielder at Cal State Fullerton, and he had actually, when he knew he was going into the game as a closer, he would start in the 6th and 7th inning and long toss between half innings out in center field. As he makes a play right here, could be 2, and would actually in the 8th inning have his left fielder or right fielder who is warming him up crouch in a catching position and warm up that way and go right into the game, and never having warmed up in the bullpen. So warming up in the bullpen in a major league bullpen is an adjustment for him right now.
Of course, I'd imagine back in those days when he was warming up as an outfielder to come into a game, they brought him in as a closer because he threw in the high 90s and touching sometimes 100 miles an hour. And you're in a big bullpen out there facing major league hitters. You're thinking about spinning your curveball a little bit, getting a feel of your changeup, and it's where using those secondary pitches come in.
2 down for Blanco. Lorenzen also did a very smart thing there. We've seen through the years where not all pitchers will do what he just did. When he fielded that one hot ground ball, he had to wait for Cozart to get to the second base bag. But he made sure he was standing on top of the mound when he threw the ball at the target. Sometimes when guys are standing on the slope downward or on the slope to the backside, it can force that throw high or wide or low. Lorenzen was right on the top of the mound, threw right where he wanted the ball to go, and it was a perfect strike to Cozart. And now the fireworks are going off out there in the power stacks. Well, the Reds have interns all over this ballpark. Maybe they're just learning how everything works around here.
What's this button do?
Right. Two-two pitch. This will take care of the Giants in the 6th. Reds coming up. They have Votto, Frazier, and Bird trying to get closer, down by 4. it's been all the Giants right from the get-go. They got a 2-out, 3-run home run by Brandon Belt off Red starter Jason Marquis for a 3-0 lead. Kozart got him a run closer in the bottom of the first inning with a solo blast. But then the Giants would score 3 more times in the third inning. 2 of them off one crack of the bat from Buster Posey down the left field line. McGee had a run-scoring single in that 3-run third. And then Billy Hamilton a moment ago. It's his 3rd home run of the year. And it's a 4-run spread with the Reds coming up. Votto, Frazier, Bird. This trio had 2 hits and hit the ball hard. All 3 batters did when they started the 4th inning. Votto had a single. Frazier lined out to 3rd. Bird doubled. But then Bumgarner was able to retire Phillips and Pena to get out of the inning. One to Joey Votto.
Well, if you see some smoke on your screen, that is where it's coming from. One of the tall stacks out there after a strikeout or a home run, fireworks and fire come out of there. And the smokestack on the right doesn't want to go out.
Okay, that looks more like something's burning than just the gas that's coming out through that.
You're right, with a black.
Yeah.
Now, they've not evacuated anybody out of any of the stands there, so maybe they've got it under control. Let's hope so.
Jim Day.
It is an actual situation out there. There is a real fire inside that right smokestack, and they were sending those fireworks off on purpose because they are worried about the situation. Now, between innings, Brian Price was talking to the umpiring crew and made sure that they went over and told the Giants the situation as well, that we are not trying to disrupt your batters at the plate. They need to get those fireworks out of that smokestack. There is an actual fire in there. There's black smoke coming out of it. As you said, they've evacuated no one right now, and obviously
now they are evacuating some out of there.
Okay, there we
can't
go.
see if you can see that or not, but all those rows are going out one by one, and of the seats that are directly below the smokestacks.
Boy, Votto just back-to-back outstanding at bats. Back-to-back base hits, 1 to center and 1 to left against Madison Bumgarner.
You know, it's kind of interesting because I guess it cuts both ways, Tom. When you're Madison Bumgarner and you face very few left-handers out there, you haven't really honed your pitches to get left-handers out like you have right-handers. Interesting that Madison Bumgarner comes into this ballgame having faced fewer left-handed hitters than anybody else in the National League, and the pitcher who has faced more left-handed batters than anybody else in the league pitched for the Reds last night, Johnny Cueto. And he handles those left-handed hitters on a batting average actually less than what Madison Bumgarner handles lefties on a batting average. So if you're a manager, why would you send a left-hander up against Johnny Cueto any more than you would Bumgarner?
Good question. Not sure Todd Frazier agreed with that pitch. He thought it was down low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike as that fire continues to burn out there. The fans from those 5, 7 rows, whatever it is out there. That's right there. It's a strike.
How many years ago was it that the press box down in Atlanta caught fire?
That was the first year the Atlanta Braves, or the second year, one or the other, when they took off at the All-Star break. And it was almost symbolic that occurred right around then. And that night, after a fire in the press box, they took off. and ran away with then the National League's Eastern Division. I say then the NL East because that was prior to going to 3 divisions, which we have in each league now. Two and two to Frazier. Lined into right, stays up long enough. Boy, Frazier, a couple of loud outs. A double, a liner to third, and now a liner to right.
Frazier's one of those guys in the Reds lineup that are making a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, he's back close to the plate again, but the whole idea that Don Long had professed to the right-handed hitters in this lineup is get off the plate a little bit and think about hitting everything towards center field and right center field because of the angle of the ball coming in off of Bumgarner's delivery, very low arm angle. And if you plot it on a graph measured on the height from the ground to his release point, it is identical or very close to that of Randy Johnson, even though Randy Johnson was several inches taller than Matt Bumgarner and a little bit higher than John Candelaria.
I got to wonder how much longer they're going to continue to play this game with this fire continuing to burn whatever's inside that stack. It's blowing straight into the crowd. Now, obviously, you're not going to empty the upper decks, but you wonder, would they stop the game to try and get that thing out?
Well, the only way you can get up to that, from what I understand, is go inside. There's a ladder on the inside. I've been up there before. And, of course, no one's going into that stack right now, not with that thing on fire.
Marlon Byrd gone swinging for the second out of the inning.
You may want to volunteer your personal helicopter to come over there and maybe dump some extinguisher on that.
That'd be good. But I'd want you, waving underneath to come this way or to come a little bit that way. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. special edition of UFC Fight Night. Former champion Frankie Edgar takes on California kid Uriah Faber for the first time. That'll be tomorrow morning from Manila on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Leadoff single by Votto, 2 in a row retired by Bumgarner. We're in the bottom of the 6th where the Giants lead 6-2. Brandon Phillips is grounded to second and bounced out to third. Detroit out to a 1-0 third inning lead in St. Louis. First of 3 there. Told you the Cubs in 11-10 winners over the Pirates earlier today at Wrigley Field. And Milwaukee now in the 7th inning with a 6-0 lead over the Mets. That was what I was starting to say when you talked about coming up through the middle. The other option would be, of course, a fire truck right there on Mering Way, and the ladder being extended off of it to send one of our brave firemen or firewomen up there to try and put this thing out. That's the way we kicked off our homestand. We honored firefighters and police officers. That first game back off the road trip. Big night here on Monday night. And now a second ladder being extended. I wonder with the technology that they have now of whether, you know, there aren't some places where you don't even need to send a person up there to risk injury, that, you know, there would be some kind of remote control on just the hoses themselves anymore.
Could maybe send a drone.
One ball and 2 strikes on Brandon Phillips. See, now before they start spraying any water, they're going to start moving fans out there in the section right next to the section they've already cleared out. I mean, they don't want fans soaking wet out there, so they're going to start asking them to move down.
Well, and you also don't know what they're going to use to try to extinguish it. It doesn't look like it would be a fire, and I wouldn't know, but I mean, might not be a fire that can be extinguished with water. The Friday night fireworks do not come through that stack. They're all out on a barge in the river, if I'm not mistaken.
Fly ball to left field, and that'll do it for the Reds after a leadoff single by Votto. We move to the 7th. Going to try to put that fire out. Reds down by 4. Sunday, July the 13th. Tickets are available online at allstargame.com. So I guess the Sunday is the 12th. I beg your pardon. I said the 13th. It is the 12th. The home run inning contest is on the 13th. That fire is raging out there in the top of the power stacks in right center field. And look at this. Firemen arriving on the scene. 2 different ladders.
They've got it surrounded.
And on the verge, hopefully, of putting that thing out. Well, they're on top of their game.
Boy, you're not kidding.
In that job, you don't get mulligans. And you can't have a bad 2 weeks or a bad month.
Or a bad day.
No. That's getting it done. Cincinnati's finest right there. On top of their game, and we salute them and say thank you. can see one of those bats has been charred black.
Well, I imagine it's been burning for so long that the metal up there has got to be extremely hot. Well, you can't be afraid of heights in that business.
I want to make sure that there's no spark anywhere. Well, what a great job. We thank those guys for doing what they do every single day, year after year after year. We got to find out those two guys' names.
Exactly.
They're the only two, obviously, that are helping to do this. There are many, many others. I'm sure the Reds are going to invite them to come out and throw out a first pitch. Knowing the Reds, they've probably already done that. One ball and one strike on Angel Pagan, as Lorenzen for a second straight inning has walked the leadoff man. Fouled out of play, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. Fastball moves Pagan off the plate. You know what many people may not know, some of you do know. I remember reading this a long time ago. I had forgotten about it until just looking at it now. There's a ground ball to short. There's one, and Pagan legs out the back end. The Cincinnati Fire Department was established on April the 1st in 1853. It was the first paid, fully professional fire department of any city in the United States of America. The first one ever.
I wonder how many of those guys up there, those firemen, have had a chance to do their job in front of 40,000 people.
That's a good point.
And evidently on the big stage, they're every bit as good as when they do it in the middle of the night with nobody watching.
Or at least those that are watching, they're very upset. At least they're getting a chance to do one here tonight where there aren't people crying, standing outside for one terrible reason or another. Of course, Richard Braun is our fire chief here in Cincinnati. He has held that position since 2011. So, Richard, your guys have done a great job as always tonight. Cozart going out, Hamilton coming in, Zach the catch for the second out.
For another memory right there for Michael Lorenzen, I'm sure. Having been raised in California, in the Fullerton area, you know he had to follow Buster Posey. I mean, I don't know whether he idolized him or made him a hero. Posey's the kind of young man that you would make a hero because he seems to do everything the right way. But I mean, if you're Michael Lorenzen, you're standing on the mound and you're thinking, man, I'm facing Buster Posey here. And he looks as unfazed as ever. And just pumping strike after strike.
He's an impressive young man, is Michael Lorenzen. That was a wonderful interview we had when he made his major league debut. Jim was interviewing his mom. He had some other family members there.
His brothers were there.
His mom was the one who raised him. He talked a lot about that. One ball and one strike. All 6 Giants runs came over the first 3 innings. Actually, they came in 2 innings specifically. 3 in the first. On a 3-run home run by Brandon Belt. They got a 2-run home run by Posey as part of a 3-run third. And Belt in the driver's seat, brought to you by Kia, is having an extremely quiet season but making a lot of noise tonight. He came in with a total of 0 home runs and 7 runs batted in all year. This guy's been playing every day. 2 hits, a home run. Still 2-2 on Bell. Two pitch. That ball clobbered down the right field line into the corner. Pagan can fly. He will easily score, being waved around from third base. And that makes it a 7-2 game.
Well, it was fastball after fastball on that at bat with Michael Lorenzen against Belt. And he finally, I don't know whether they decided just to mix things up or not, but he dropped a little curveball in here. That's a curve spinning and just kind of hanging right up there for Belt.
Third run batted in tonight for Brandon Belt. Crowd one final time applauding the firemen for taking care of business out there and on their way back to the firehouse. Thank you, gentlemen.
Nice going.
Nice going indeed. That is a fair ball. That'll plate another run on a double by Maxwell. So back-to-back two-out doubles from Belt and Maxwell. A 2-run Giants 7th, and it's 8-2.
Yeah, right down the line this goes. A fastball that was meant to be on the other part of the plate. We haven't seen Maxwell do a whole lot, but he's able to keep that ball fair. With Hunter Pence on the horizon, probably on an airplane very shortly to come to Cincinnati. He might be on the way right now. I'm not so sure how much playing time Maxwell will get down the road, but the Giants, this is a very unlikely offensive night for the Giants. We were talking about the Pythagorean theorem here earlier, Tom, and I asked you kind of tongue-in-cheek whether you believed in it.
I wasn't.
Well, you know, and in the meantime, Joel Luckham explained in detail what it is. I think you had a pretty good idea what it was.
No, I had no idea what it was.
And well, thank you for your honesty. And for those of you who don't know what it is, in baseball, it is essentially a comparison of the number of runs your team scores versus the number of runs you give up. And for approximately every 10 runs, that means you either win or lose that many games. So based on what the Giants have done this year, they should be 5 games under 500 with the Pythagorean theorem, when in fact they're only 1 game under. So which proves your point. Well, they're better than how they appear.
Well, you know, that's one of those rules that is obviously, or one of those, it's not an absolute.
No.
Because there have been far too many examples, and I don't mean the extremes like a team that you're talking about, because there's another base hit that'll bring in another run. Throw going to be cut off, and it's 9-2. You know, in any given year, the way Joel was explaining it to me, I understood the basic rule that if you're plus 50 of runs scored versus runs allowed, you should be plus 5 over 500. And you're talking about based on where they are, and you know, but there have just been, not only in terms of teams that'll win a division, and they're nowhere close to that kind of number, but when you go through all the teams in Major League Baseball, I looked at it just one time briefly, I remember last year, and it really didn't hold true, I don't even think, to the majority of teams of where they should be. I mean, let's take a look at like some of the teams right now. I mean, it's a 9-2 game. And, you know, you start looking at where the teams are. I'd be interested to find out how close it is to being accurate.
Well, we can look at a few up.
Because we don't have the stat sheets, at least right here in front of us, that give us what that spread is. You can go find out how many a team has scored and how many they've allowed.
Well, for instance,
pages of the notes.
Let's take the St. Louis Cardinals this year. They're 24-10. They're in first place. And according to the Pythagorean theorem, and you can look it up on baseballreference.com. That's where I go to get this information anyway. And their theorem there says that their record should be 23-11 when in fact they're 24-10. Pretty close. I think you're going to find over the course of time when you do it that it's going to give you a trend. It's not going to be right on. But it's going to give you an idea that if you're scoring a whole bunch more runs than the opposition over the course of 100 games, you're going to be a lot better than a team that doesn't have that anywhere near that spread.
Oh, yeah. I just meant as far as the exactness of it. That's what I meant. I mean, just because you're plus 50 doesn't mean you're 5 games over 500.
Right. Well, you're a lot like me in math, where we like to approximate a little bit.
Line drive will end the inning. Giants with 3 in the first, 3 in the third, 3 in the 7th, and they lead 9-2. Giants here at Great American Ballpark. There are still some tickets available, and if you get a ticket and you get down here early, if you're one of the first 25,000 fans in attendance, you will receive a Johnny Bench Stars of the Queen City bobblehead presented by John Morrell. They're putting up on the Jumbotron pictures of the firefighters who just put out that fire in right center field. In fact, they filmed the entire operation from the time they got here to when they moved the ladders up against the power stacks, to the firefighters that went up the power stacks and put out the fire, and then right back down again to the ground. Ryan Pena drives one into right center field. That is caught by Maxwell. It's a nice play. And Pena hit that ball hard and a long way the other way.
Well, the Reds have hit the ball very sharply off of Bumgarner tonight. And a lot of it is found leather. I've been kind of impressed with the Giants outfield based on the fact that they don't get to play here very often, and that wall can come up on you in a hurry. We saw Sagan last night make a very fine catch off of Billy Hamilton.
I want to ask you to do me a favor, since you were the one that brought this up tonight, as there's a base hit into center field by Negron.
Each time he's
I know there's a mathematical equation for it, which you have in front of you, but again, I mean, you know, to a guy like me and to 90% of the people out there, your eyes glaze over when you look at that mathematical equation. I want somebody to tell me in layman's terms, because I've always been told that was basically a 10-run spread on that rule. Now, maybe we're not enough games into the season for it to be a 10-run spread. Okay? Because there's a mathematical equation, and the number of games has to play into this equation somewhere. But if the Cardinals, based on what I've always heard it to be, which is 10 runs, if they're plus 50, based on that, they would be 5 games over 500. So this few games into the year, what are they using as the number?
Okay, it's not an absolute number like that. What they do, it's essentially a formula to tell you whether your team is lucky or not.
Whether you're lucky or not?
It was developed by Bill James. You heard of Bill James.
Okay.
And what you've done is you take the run scored and you multiply that times a factor of 1.83.
Okay, well, Joel Luck of our station is saying it's 5 runs now.
No.
Plus 5 in wins means minus 5 in losses, right? Is that what you're saying?
I'm telling you what the formula is, and you're not listening.
Okay.
Now I can understand why you had your problems.
Absolutely.
You take this factor, 1.83, you multiply it times your runs scored, you divide it times the runs scored, plus the runs allowed, times the same factor. Each one of those by the same factor, and it gives you the expected winning percentage of that team.
Okay. But again, getting back,
you want to simplify to the point of dividing it by 10 runs and how many games over 500 they should be.
So Joel has a note, and I'll let you, since you know what it is, you can explain it to the guy out there who, if they're interested in this at all, then we can know what it means when they look up runs scored and runs allowed and have an idea of where a team should be.
All right, a team has 30 wins and 30 losses. I don't know what you gave me a note. I don't know what he wrote. I'm telling you the formula.
All right, we're going to tell you this conversation. There's a pop-up by the pinch hitter Devin Mesoraco to the right side. Following each and every Reds game right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Please stick around and we'll have it for you tonight. Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll break it all down on a night where the Reds came in with a 3-game winning streak. And they've got work to do if they want to try and make it forward. They're down by 7 here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Hamilton grounded out to second base in the first inning. He struck out swinging into third. And then hit a home run off Bumgarner, his third of the year. That went to left field in the fifth. A couple of breaking balls. One that Billy swung at in the dirt, and then that one he had to jump rope out of the way.
You know, some left-handed pitchers are simply deceptive with their moves to first and home. Tony Cingrani, great example, picked the runner off last night. Bumgarner, on the other hand, is just quick to the plate. I mean, he doesn't even really lift his leg up. He just kind of cocks his hip and drives to the home plate area with it. And still has a lot on the ball. I mean, that foot doesn't come but a couple of inches off the ground. Very difficult guy to get a lead in a stolen base off of.
Foul ball, still 1-2. Lorenzen goes 2 innings, allows 3 hits and 3 runs. Walk 2, did not strike out about it. And again, he will continue to pitch out of the bullpen until the Reds would need a 5th starter, and that will be the final game of the Cleveland series. Shallow right center field. It's going to fall in, a hit for Billy. McGrone on to third base.
Boy, he's been chasing everything that's been down really low. That ball looked like it was going into the dirt based on what Buster Posey getting down at his knees to block it, but he just drops it right there in no man's land. Bumgarner's right around the 100 pitch mark, 102 to be exact. That's Dave Righetti, their pitching coach, out to talk to him. You know, they feel about Bumgarner the way that really the Reds feel about Johnny Cueto, in as much as when Bumgarner takes the mound, those are games that they can ill afford to lose, because they're normally going to get a pretty good outing out of him. Now, it doesn't mean that Bumgarner is always going to get that win. But he usually takes him deep enough into the game to give him a pretty good chance.
Smash down to third, and McGee will get the force out to end the inning. Reds get a couple of hits. Strand 2. We're off to the 8th. 9-2. Giants in front. times on the 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot at Reds.com. Voting is exclusively online and available on your computer, your tablet, or your smartphone. And you can help select the starting lineups for the 2015 All-Star Game. And, of course, that'll be right here in Cincinnati. You can vote early, vote often, vote Reds if you so choose today at Reds.com. Reds will bring on their 4th pitcher of the night. It started with Marquis to Badenhop to Lorenzen, and now making his Reds debut is right-hander Ryan Matthews. They just signed him. He was pitching in AAA in the Angels organization. Spent a number of years with the Washington Nationals.
Well, he's had some arm injury, Tom. You mentioned that last night when we talked about him coming on board with the Reds. 31 years old. Born in Galt, California. Originally drafted and came up through the Rockies organization when they got him in the 2003 draft. Big guy, 6'3", 220. Has pitched in 147 games, including tonight.
And his first pitch as a Red is shot into left field by Aoki, who came up to bat to begin the inning for Madison Bumgarner. So Bumgarner goes 7, allows 8 hits, 2 runs. He struck out 4 and did not walk a batter. A couple of other changes for the Reds besides Matthews. Negron moves in from right to left, and first time we've seen Brennan Bosch in quite a while. He's now in right field. Sorry, the 5th plate appearance in a game tonight by Blanco, and he's down a strike. Matthews arrived just in time for game time here last night. He had a long way to come out in Salt Lake. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ripped into right center field. Hamilton slides to cut it off. They're going to hold the runner at third, says the one-time Red Roberto Kelly, and that's a double by Blanco, who's having the series, the best series he's probably had in seemingly forever.
Now back-to-back sharply hit balls, and you're right about that. He goes down to get that ball and rips it right into the right center field gap. That sliding stop by Hamilton saved the run, at least for now.
Blanco came into this series, we mentioned earlier, hitting .219. That batting average is up to .257. 2 hits tonight, been on base 3 times. Was on base 3 times, 2 hits, a walk, scored 2 runs last night. Well, someone's going to have to sit the bench starting tomorrow that's been used to playing regularly. And that someone will be in the Giants outfield. And Chris alluded to earlier, I mean, Maxwell's a guy that's been playing right, and that's where Hunter Pence plays in right. But generally, if a guy can play right, he can also play left. And let's face it, at least before this series, if you had Hunter Pence and you had to pick either Blanco or Maxwell just based on numbers and who's played better so far this season, Maxwell has better numbers. Now, they're different kinds of players. But one of those two, because it won't be Pagan, one of those two will sit down starting tomorrow. at least from playing regularly. Maxwell's a straight right-handed batter. Blanco is a left-handed batter, so conceivably they could platoon.
Well, I think they're getting Hunter Pence up here maybe even quicker than they thought they would. And maybe because they accelerated him through the rehab program, building up the strength and so on. I mean, well, after all, he broke his bone by being hit by a pitch. So when you're in a cast, you're not doing any strengthening exercises. Maybe going to get tired, so they'll get some more sporadic playing time than having somebody just drop in on them and play every day from here on out, which is what Hunter Pence likes to do.
Pence is one of those guys that plays literally every day. He, I believe I had read this back in spring training prior to getting hurt, where he has played more innings than any major league player over the last 10 years. He's not missed a game in 2 years. He's played every game the last 2 seasons. Gone swinging his panic.
A high fastball at 93 miles an hour from Ryan Matthews to strike out Joe Panic. And we'll make that our flamethrower, brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. Panic averages about 94, 93 miles an hour. Throws a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer. Splits them up half and half. Also a slider and a splitter.
Pagan has reached base twice, but he's 0 for 4 and has scored a couple of runs. He was aboard on the home run by Posey in the 3rd and scored all the way from first on a double down the right field line by Belt in the 7th. Second and third, 1 out for the Giants, and a tapper down to third. Frazier will play to first and gets he out there. Aoki scores from third base to make it 10-2.
Well, Pagan ran across that bag at first base. He looked into the Giants dugout and said, hey, I think I beat that out, but you may want to take a look and review that. He's not coming back to the dugout yet. I mean, even in a 9-2 ball game, now 10-2, Pagan's looking for a base hit.
Ooh, boy, is that close.
And they decide not to take a look after all.
Posey, a 2-run home run. That was a big home run in this game. The Giants had scored 3 in the first inning, but the Reds came right back to get 1 in the bottom of the first, so it was just a 3-1 ball game in the 3rd inning. With 1 on and 1 out, Posey launched one down the left field line. See you later.
Pitch hitting was this Buster Posey. Actually, that ball was in off the plate from Jason Marquis. Both of the home runs that Marquis gave up were on first pitches thrown into the at bat.
Yusmeiro Petit, who does a little bit of everything for Bruce Bochy over the last 3.5, 4 seasons, is getting loose in the pen. Boy, has he picked up some big outs for the Giants the last couple of years in the playoffs. The guy at one time a highly touted prospect coming up through the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, who really never found his way as a starter, but has become an extremely valuable pitcher for the Giants. Cozart on the jam shot, one hopper, inning over. Giants tack on a run, middle of the 8th. They lead 10-2. Dealers, proud sponsor of the Cincinnati Reds. MLB.TV Premium is the #1 live streaming sports service celebrating 13 years. You can watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Blackout and other restrictions may apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Use Miro Petit on for Madison Bumgarner, with the Giants leading 10-2 in the 8th.
Petit has been around a little bit. Signed by the Mets in 2001. He's now 30 years old. He's also been with the Marlins, then went to the Diamondbacks. Selected by the Mariners off waivers and from the Diamondbacks. Then he got released by the Mariners. Then re-signed by the Mariners and then released again by the Mariners. And it was a couple of years ago in January is when the Giants signed him, and he's had a pretty good run ever since. He went 5 years there in his major league career between the time that he was with the Diamondbacks and then finally signed by the Giants and brought up in 2014 that he was in the major leagues. So a little perseverance paid off for Petit.
1-2 on Votto at 2 hits and 3 at bats against Madison Bumgarner tonight. A strikeout there. Well, you look back, and we talked about it a moment ago about Petit. As he fans Votto there. But last year he pitched in 39 games for him, 12 as a starter. and pitched 117 innings. But then you go to the playoffs, 6 innings, 1 hit, a 1-0 record in the division series against the Nationals. Won a game in the league championship series with 3 innings of 1 hit shutout baseball out of the bullpen to beat St. Louis. And then pitched in 2 games, got a win in the World Series, a 7-gamer against Kansas City. So that gives you an idea in a few of the games in the postseason last year where the Giants did not get a good start from a member of their rotation. Petit was a guy that would come in and pitch it 3+ innings at a time. The team would come back and win games, and he'd pick up the victory in each round of the playoffs.
And he does it with stuff that really don't measure up to today's scouting standards. I mean, his fastball averages 88 miles an hour, well below the average major league fastball now. He splits a lot of different pitches, a cutter, a curve, and a changeup, just about equally among his other parts of his repertoire. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But when you come into a playoff game and you give your team 6 innings of shutout baseball, well, you talk about answering the bell. The Giants have just had a history of being able to do that, especially since Bruce Bochy came in there as the head man.
That was a do-or-die pickup there on the slowly hit ball by Frazier. Boy, how funny this game is. We talk about it all the time. Frazier's last 2 at-bats have been a line drive that almost knocked McGee over, who caught it in the 4th. A line drive to right field caught by Maxwell, and now he gets a hit like this. Bird a pop-up, a double, and a strikeout. Well, I beg your pardon, Brennan Bosch. Thank you. First pitch swinging, was a fly ball into right center field. Two away in the inning. Brandon missed the last 2 games. Back in the lineup tonight, he's 0 for 3, 2 ground outs and a fly ball to left. One and 2 to Phillips. Popped up, and this ought to do it for the Reds in the 8th inning. It will. 1 hit, 1 left, off to the 9th. 10-2 San Francisco. rivalry, starting with the Braves taking on the Marlins. And then the Pirates and the Cubs having to recover from a marathon today. Coverage begins at 1 p.m. Eastern on your home for baseball every Saturday, Fox Sports 1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. We take a peek around the corner to tomorrow here at Great American Ballpark. Ryan Vogelsong, been around a long time. A 1-2 record. ERA of up over 5.5, but coming off by far his best start of the year. And Mike Leake has simply been outstanding for the Reds through his first 7 starts, averaging over 7 innings per outing and a 2.3 ERA.
And getting it done quick.
Reds have a new pitcher. J.J. Hoover takes over for Ryan Matthews. His first innings are red. He gives up 2 hits and a run. 1 pitch, 1 out for J.J.
Yeah, that 3.21 earned run average for J.J. Hoover, like a lot of relievers, can be very deceiving. It was blown up because of 1 outing that he had at Milwaukee. The Reds ended up winning that ball game 16-10. That was a grand slam night, if you remember. 3 of them were hit that night. He gave up 4 runs in that ball game, 3 walks. But other than that, he has only been scored upon 1 other game. And that was right before the Reds went to Milwaukee when they were in St. Louis. He's on his way to a pretty tidy inning right here.
Yeah, 2 pitches, 2 outs, nothing wrong with that. One other change for the Reds. Tucker Barnhart takes over behind the plate for Brian Pena, but Brian's going to stay in the game and smiling about it. He takes over for Joey over at first base. These kinds of games are really becoming quite rare all over baseball, with runs scored being way down. You just don't see a lot of blowouts anymore.
Yeah. Unusual game. Was it in Chicago or Pittsburgh? I guess it was in Pittsburgh, between the Cubs and the Pirates, where that one went 11-10.
Yes. Not too bad. 5-pitch inning for J.J. Reds will bat in the bottom of the 9th. They trail the Giants 10-2. By the Giants ace, Madison Bumgarner.
Well, they had a few runs with which to support him, and the Reds hit the ball hard, but overall a solid outing for the Giants ace. This has not been a ball club that has really let him off the hook very easy. They've hit him well in the past. Bumgarner, he comes right in here, tames the Reds tonight. But a lot of that, as I said, due to 10 runs scored on his behalf. They gave him an early lead 3-1 and then 6-1, and it never really looked back from there.
Ten runs and 13 hits for the Giants tonight. 2 runs and 9 hits for the Reds. Skip Schumacher will lead things off. He's batting for Brian Pena. Maxwell in front of the wall, runs it down, 1 away in the Reds' ninth.
Petit, if you remember last year, made history, Major League history, and he retired 46 batters in a row. He broke the record that was previously held by Mark Burley when Burley was a member of the White Sox. And they began collecting balls in that game, and the backup catcher Andrew Susick was in the game. He was wondering what was going on. He had no clue that Petit was on the verge of this record. Started that in July the 22nd, and it ended in August. 46 batters in a row.
It's not bad. Not bad at all. Jordan Lyles ended that streak.
A pitcher.
He had a double to left field with 2 outs in the 3rd inning of the game on August the 28th. Family hanging around tonight, and look at the faces there. Been a long night here. They're hanging with the Reds right in the 9th inning, and then you come away with a souvenir. How are you going to beat that? Reds are down to their final out. Look at that little kid's face. Both of them. Boy, he will be the main man at school come Monday morning.
Well, that will be put away and prized for a long time, that baseball.
Into right field off the bat of Tucker Barnhart. And he'll be held to a long single. So Tucker, his first at bat in the game, collects a base hit. Strike 1 to Billy Hamilton. Hamilton retired his first 2 times up tonight, and then got 2 more at bats against Madison Bumgarner. Homered in the 5th, singled in the 7th. Game in St. Louis has gone to the 6th inning. Tigers still with a 2-0 lead over the Redbirds at Busch Stadium. And it's a final Kyle Lose. Pitches shutout baseball for the Brewers, and this ought to tie around this one. Is that. Blanco back to haul in the final out of the night. So the Giants have evened the series at a game apiece. Madison Bumgarner the winner, Jason Marquis the loser. 10-2 the final. Reds Live is coming up next. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.